Hello, I'm Trent, aka oTradeMark here, and I'm going to show you guys in this video how to fully automate your Rikugan Eye farming completely away from your keyboard. You can do this while you're asleep, and it is the way in which we actually got our evolved Gojo right here. What a beast of a unit. But the reason why I actually made this was because of how frustrating it was when Anime Adventures Update 6 actually came out. I got my Gojo right away, and I wanted to be one of the first YouTubers to actually have evolved Gojo. So what I did is I streamed for 24 hours, and guess how many Rikugan Eyes I got during that time period? 1. It took me 23 hours of grinding these special curses to get a single Rikugan Eye, and I got so upset, so frustrated that I decided I was going to, no matter what, I was going to figure out a way that we could entirely AFK the eye grind, because to be honest, it's ridiculous. Now, to be clear, they did buff the drop rate of the Rikugan Eyes from 5% to 10%. So they doubled the drop rate. But what they also did that they didn't tell you guys is, well, they didn't make it clear at least, is that they removed the ability to actually get eyes from story mode. You used to be able to do Cursed Academy story act 4, 5, and 6 and beat the boss on wave 15, and that counted. You could get your Rikugan Eye drops from that. But they completely removed that so that you can only grind it in Cursed or in Infinite mode, which is actually kind of a nerf. Hanami, Jogo, and Mahito only have a chance to spawn past wave 20, and then on wave 30 again, and wave 40. Wave 50 does have a guaranteed Mahito, which I'll explain in a little bit. So let's go ahead and get into this. What you're going to need in order to AFK this is tinytask. So let's go ahead and hide this image real fast so you can see my tinytask here. So here we have tinytask. If you've never used this before, you're going to download this program, run it. Then you're going to make sure that continuous playback and always on top are actually checked right here. Okay. You don't need always on top. I would also recommend changing your recording hotkey to F8. I'll explain that, but that's what I use. There's a lot of games which use shift, which will shift lock your character, and that can throw off your tinytask. So just keep in mind, I would highly recommend changing your recording hotkey and maybe even your playback hotkey. I still use the default, but you can use print screen or F12. You just can't use the same key for the same task. So what I'm going to do is start off with my recording hotkey, and this is going to start my tinytask recording. And then what I'm going to actually do, the very first step is kind of unintuitive, but I'm actually going to close out of Roblox. And then up here in the top left-hand corner, I have a small window of Chrome with my private server of Anime Adventures sitting here. This requires a private server, but that's okay because private servers are free in Anime Adventures, but you do need to actually have basically your private server up in some corner of your screen, because you're going to come back to that every single loop. You need to be able to open a private server. The reason for this is so that you're not thrown into a public server where you could accidentally enter someone else's room and completely throw off your entire tinytask. It also makes it so you reset your position in the exact same spot every time. So once we've loaded into the game, I wait about 5 to 10 seconds, and then I'm going to start walking left. So I'm just going to hold A, walk left. This is basically going to get me to the play section. Once I actually see the door, I'm going to start holding up and left, and this is going to walk me straight into this location. I'm just going to hold left, up and to the left. So I'm holding A and W, and then once we're inside, we keep holding it for a few seconds, because we're basically fail-proofing in case we're a little bit forward or back. We're going to just keep walking until we get into an area. The next part that's very important is you cannot use your mouse scroll on this screen. You need to actually click on the bar on the far right hand side, click it, hold, drag down until you see Cursed Academy. Again, you cannot use your mouse scroll. It won't be picked up on tinytask. Okay, everyone, one quick tip when you're actually recording your tinytask on this part. So right at the beginning, once you close and relaunch your private server, you walk left, you get into the teleporter, make sure that when you're going to select the map, so here we go into the portal, as you see, when you select the map, I would suggest clicking the bar on the right multiple times and dragging to the bottom. I just had an instance where it looped and it didn't actually click that bar, even though it should. Most of the time it should click this bar. Occasionally it's better just to like click multiple times here. So if I was recording this again, I would basically click here, drag, click here, drag, and do it like 3 or 4 times to make sure that, see, just like that, see how it didn't actually catch it that time? This means that it would load the wrong map. And so to prevent that on a new recording, what you would want to do is basically click here, drag down, click here again. Even though there's nothing here, you're basically just kind of pretend grabbing this thing and just pulling down from a bunch of different locations up above here. We're going to select Cursed Academy. Luckily it defaults to infinite, so we can just select and then we can start this mode. And now we're starting the process of loading the game. Now here's a really big problem about this, is that this process of loading into the game to the point where you're able to play varies from game to game, from loop to loop. It varies dramatically. It varies on how quickly you get into a server, and it also varies which direction you're actually facing when you load into the game. So we need to actually do this tiny task on a time when we're facing backwards into the spawn point and not to our side. If we're facing to our side, you have to start over again. Luckily, we did get the one where we're behind ourselves. I would say about 80% of the time I get this screen where it's facing backwards. About another 20% of the time or so I get the sideways view, but the vast majority of times, at least for me, I do get the method where you're facing towards the back. And so we can go ahead and play it from here. I'm going to go ahead and start walking backwards, and then once I get to about this house, I'm going to stop and I'm going to hold the O key. You can't use your scroll wheel again, but O actually zooms me out. And I can now readjust my character a little bit forward or backwards until all I can see is that little ridge at the bottom here. So now I have my position set. Every single game that I load in, I'm going to play from this position. And some games, if I start at the side view, it's going to mess up the whole thing, but it's okay. I'll show you the loop works just fine, even if you get that side view. So the first thing I actually start out with is Bulma. I'm going to place Bulma and I'm immediately going to upgrade her and try and get her up to the 4500 upgrade. Keep in mind where I place Bulma. I don't want to ever place a unit right against the wall, because like I said, when you're first loading into the game and you set your position, you might be just a little bit in front of or a little bit behind your location from the last loop. And in order for this to work correctly, you need to make sure that you're not directly on top of that location, or you're not directly on top of something that would prevent you from dropping a unit where it's red. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, now that I have that, I'm going to just a little bit of ways from the wall, I'm going to place down an Airwin, and I'm going to upgrade this Airwin up to about there, maybe one more. Then I'm going to drop one more Airwin a little bit spaced out. There we go. Do the same thing, upgrade that a little bit, and then a final Airwin just right here in between. So here's where I can see that red, and here's where I see the red, just right in the middle here. So I have a little bit of leeway between my Airwins to not make sure that this tiny task doesn't not place down an Airwin. Once we have our 3 Airwins down, we're not going to actually use these to buff. They're just there to fail safe basically those units in the back. So we can go ahead and place our Erza down, who's my first carry unit. Now if you don't have Erza, that's okay. You don't actually need Erza to complete this. The main important thing that you want is that depending on your meta units, you need to get them down in time to start killing the really tough units that are on the map. Okay, so the next thing I'm basically going to do is I'm going to get this Erza Lightning up to her next skill improvement, which is it's upgrade 3, or basically going to upgrade 4 is going to give us a new attack, and it's going to allow us to do a lot more AoE, and it's basically going to make us much stronger versus the enemies that are around the map. So we're going to wait real quick until we hit the just a little bit more yen. There we go, we got it. And we got it just in time to damage that unit over there, which is good. And then I'm actually going to upgrade my Airwinds a bit more just to safeguard against any units that have already leaked through. The goal for this early part of your playthrough, of your recording, is to make sure that you start seeing the Airwinds of the Survey Corps members coming onto your screen from this path, that make sure that nothing else is leaking past there. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep upgrading these Airwinds until I start seeing the Survey Corps members, like I said earlier. So here we go. We're waiting for some money. We upgrade this. Maybe we upgrade this one next. And I'm essentially looking for our Survey Corps members to get onto the screen. Okay. So now I do see this Death Painting Curse. That was what was actually the higher damage or the higher HP earlier. And it looks like it is going to kill it. So now our Survey Corps members should start being able to move forward, which is perfect. That's exactly what I actually want. And we have some more money here. So let's go ahead and just upgrade these, upgrade this. And now we should be good from this point on to select our Bulma and start upgrading Bulma a little bit as well. So let's go ahead and just wait for this. One thing that you can always do in order to create a failsafe within your recording is select a unit and click on upgrade even when you don't have enough money. Because occasionally as you're doing these runs, you're going to get out of sync and you're going to have more or less money than you had in your previous run. So by continuously upgrading more units or placing more units, you basically make it so that you don't run into this problem of like accidentally placing a unit somewhere where you can't even place it next run, or accidentally not upgrading a unit. So now we have our second meta unit down, our Erza. This should help us again with getting plenty of damage on the board. We're gonna keep upgrading her until, like I said, we get to her upgrade 4, where she has that new skill with the extra AoE. And this should basically give us enough damage to hold us off for a little bit longer. We can come back over here to Bulma, and next time that we have 7,500 gold or yen, we'll go ahead and actually upgrade her again. But like I said, it's okay at any point in time as you're doing this recording to select a unit and just click upgrade. That's okay to do, because in case you accidentally missed an upgrade prior, it's basically catching up that click for you. And even once it's maxed, I'll show you, I still do this even after a unit is maxed. So it's just something really, really good to do. Another thing I like to do is if I have a unit like this selected over here in the corner, I like to click down at the bottom to unselect it prior to placing a new unit. That means I know that the banner or like the area won't actually get messed up there. So I can go ahead and find a new place for this next Erza, drop her, and upgrade her. Now, some of you guys might be asking, oh wait, well I don't have Erza Lightning, I don't have a heal unit that's meta that I can evolve on heal. That's okay. You can still do this method. You're just gonna have to place down your ground unit earlier on the main path, and then use like Airwind or some secondary support unit as your air killer, and maybe even one heal unit or something that you can upgrade later. But your main source of damage can be a ground unit. That's perfectly fine, and I'll show you guys later that I actually will use the ground units once we get there. So just to give you an example, I have Kenta Overtime, right? He gains damage the longer he's out. So if I wanted to, I can go ahead and place my Kents just down this line here. Okay, I can just, the same thing, I'm spacing them out so he's not next to anything red. I'm just giving them a little bit of space to place my Kents. That's going to allow him to start gaining damage because he basically builds up damage over time. That's just his ability as a secret unit. If you don't have Kent over time, again, it doesn't matter. Place whatever meta unit you have that down here on the ground. It's okay. The main thing to remember is that as you're earning yen, you're basically upgrading your units so that you can deal enough damage to clear everything that comes onto the map. Okay. So the last Erza that I'm going to place is right here. We're going to place her, upgrade her to basically get a little bit more, 3,000, 5,000. There we go. We have her new move as well. And I do notice a Death Painting Curse in the background there. I'm just going to go ahead and upgrade some of my Airwinds to make sure that we have enough damage to kill that. We definitely don't want to lose. We had a previous recording that was botched because we actually lost to some of those units moving in the background. We want to get enough damage on the board to make sure that we're always safe. And then we can worry about upgrading things as we kind of go. So we have that one there. That's 7,000. That should clear out the death painting curse. And we should have enough airs of damage now that we're going to basically clear out the rest of these areas right here. So now this is one tricky thing about this entire situation, is that I can't actually show you guys what the best method is for your units, because your units are going to be different than my units, and what passives or what traits you have on them, etc., where your damage is coming from. So I can't always kind of show you guys the most ideal situation. All I can do is show you this middle part is basically you understanding your team and basically upgrading which units need to be upgrading and getting yourself a farm unit so that you have enough yen to actually upgrade those. But everything has to be played from this position where I'm at right here, right? Everything has to be done from this area here. And so I need to make sure that I have enough damage on the board to actually clear through all of this. We can always dedicate your hearts. That's okay if you want to do that. Just make sure you select off of Airwind before you pop it, just so that you don't accidentally click on the wrong unit or something. Perfect, guys. Take a look on the screen. Round 40, we got a Rikugan Eye. How perfect is that for the video? Basically, like I said, you can only get them from Hanami, Jogo, or Mojito. We did get one of those on wave 40, which is really good news because we've had really bad luck up to this point. Wave 10, you can't spawn one of those 3 bosses. Wave 20, we got a curse. Wave 30, we got Jupi. Those cannot spawn the eye. But wave 40, we did get the correct boss. And as you see on the screen, it popped up the +1 Rikugan Eye. This is how you're grinding right here. This is a method that you're going to be able to AFK for these eyes and get at least 6, so you can at least evolve your Gojo, and then you can keep going. I need eyes even though I've evolved my Gojo, because I need to limit break. I know that's probably not the term, but that's the term from anime fighters. I'm gonna limit break my Gojo and get even more levels and upgrades on him. So I need 2 more eyes, and we're gonna be able to limitless our Gojo at least 1 time. Okay, so there we go. Holy cow, obtain Rikugan Eyes, guys. Oh my goodness, this is the best video ever. We got double Rikugan Eyes in a video about how to farm AFK farm Rikugan Eyes, man. Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. And even better, on wave 52 we spawned Mahodi Transfigured. This is good because I can end on this note. The transfigured versions cannot drop Rikugan Eyes, okay? You cannot drop Rikugan Eyes with the Mahodi Transfigured or any of the transfigured versions. I don't know if these Hanami or Jogo have that, but basically they don't work, or they will drop the capsules, so it's still good to kill them. So I'm actually gonna keep my thing going here. Okay guys, now once you have killed Mahoti on your tiny task, then you can go ahead and sell all of your units. So we're gonna sell all of the units, and then we're gonna let the game end, basically we're gonna die, and you need to wait till you are dead and an additional 10 or 15 seconds after that to make sure that you give plenty of time, because like again, in future loops it might not kill the boss at the same time, the units might not be leaking at the same speed, and it might take you additional time to actually finish the game. There we go. Now we have our XP going on. We can safely wait, a few seconds, and then we can just hit whatever our stop recording key is. So for me, that's F8. And then again, you want to make sure preferences continuous playback is on. But from this screen, this is why I made it like this, to start with it closing. You actually just start your playback again right here from this screen, and watch what's going to happen. It's going to close down my Roblox. It's going to rejoin my private server, and it's going to continue that entire loop. If you want, you can watch it back make sure that everything works as according to how you want it. The only time that I would say that it will not work is if I load into the game and it's got that camera shift angle. Unfortunately, if that happens, there's nothing that you can do to stop it. You're just gonna lose, and then your tiny task is gonna just click there for a long time until eventually after the tiny task goes through the whole loop, it's going to close Roblox again, and you'll basically have to start over. I mean, the loop will start over. You don't have to actually touch anything in that situation. If you do get in that situation where it's on the wrong one and you're monitoring if you're monitoring your computer at that time, you're welcome to just stop the tiny task and restart it, and it will close again and start over. All right, guys, so here is an example of the angle from the side. If you load in like this entire run is going to be bunk, and you can't record the tiny task from this side angle. But I literally just tested it in stream, and I joined my server about 10 times in a row, and this is the only time that I saw it. So I don't know what it is, if it's my avatar, if it's what, because imagine if this was the tiny task playing, it would walk this way, and then it would start trying to drop units here, which, you know, obviously it's not going to work to drop units over here. It's just, you know, that it's not going to work. You might get one unit down or whatever, but it's not going to pass the waves that you want it to. So this run, basically it would just sit here and do nothing. You would lose early, and then after 30 minutes or whatever your tiny task recording is, it would close the instance and restart. But the thing is, you can't actually, if you're experiencing the side angle a lot, I'm not really sure what makes it so. I load 90% of the time, I load in facing backwards, and only 10%, or maybe even less, I've only seen it twice out of probably 100 runs that it's actually had this side angle. But I wouldn't actually worry about it. I would just worry about getting the backwards angle, recording your tiny task, and making sure that's looping. If you occasionally load in sideways and it wastes 30 minutes sitting there, it's still better than nothing. All right, guys, there you have it. Now you see right next to me, we got our Toad Boy gaming with his evolved Gojo and my evolved Gojo. Or no, his is back there. His has got Divine. His is even cooler than mine. I thought mine was so cool with Godspeed, but his is even cooler with Divine. And this evolved Gojo method means that you can AFK farm your Rikugan eyes. I really hope that this helps you. We've been playing a little bit of Anime Adventures with Toad Boy Gaming. If you're not already subscribed to him, go check out his channel. And we're almost at 100K subscribers, which is so incredible. Thank you guys so much. Malo Albito. Thanks for watching, and peace. I'm out of here.